Welcome to The Explainer. Today, we're diving into the controversy surrounding the final hours of political commentator Charlie Kirk. What started out as the story of a tragic death has, well, it's spiraled into a really complex web of conflicting claims, public denials, and some serious accusations of a cover-up.
Before we continue, kindly subscribe to the channel. This will make us to create more compelling content.
So, let's break down how this all unfolded, based on the source material. Everything really kicks off with this one single message, a pretty chilling one, allegedly sent by Charlie Kirk right before he died. They are going to murder me. This message is now at the absolute center of a political firestorm, and it involves accusations of a cover-up from inside his own organization, Turning Point USA.
So, this raises the huge question, right? What on earth did he mean by that? To even begin to understand what's going on, you have to navigate this maze of conflicting stories, denials that were made on national TV, and then admissions that came later. So we're going to lay out the key events for you step by step.
All right, first up, a scandal of deception. We're going to start with the initial public reaction to Kirk's death, and look at how the story that was being told started to get questioned, and questioned fast. So the official story, that came to us first in a really emotional interview with his widow, Charlie Kirk. She said she wanted to shut down all the conspiracy theories that were swirling around. She went on a major platform, the Glenn Beck program, and issued what you can only call a categorical denial. She said, flat out, that those messages just did not exist. But then she added this one little detail that would end up becoming a massive focal point, and I have his cell phone. Now, for any legal or forensics expert watching, that statement set off immediate alarm bells. I mean, in an investigation into a suspicious death, a cell phone is priority A evidence for the FBI. It's one of the first things they'd secure. So the fact that it was still with the family? Well, it really only suggests two possibilities, right? Either the FBI isn't actually conducting a real, legitimate investigation, or the Kirk estate is actively holding on to a crucial piece of evidence. And that's when the story took a very sharp turn. Commentator Candace Owens, who was the first one to even report on these messages, came out and publicly challenged Charlie Kirk's denial. And she didn't just challenge it, she came with specifics. See, Owens named names. She identified two people who she said received that murder text: Andrew Colvett, who is a spokesperson for Turning Point USA, and another associate named Dan Flood. And the real kicker? She claimed her information came straight from Colvett himself, that he'd confirmed receiving the text. Now that, as you can imagine, put some serious pressure on the Kirk camp to respond. So what happened after all that public pressure? A huge shift in the official story. The denial was, well, it was taken back. It was suddenly admitted that, yes, Charlie Kirk did, in fact, send those messages. The excuse given for the flat-out denial earlier? Well, the story was that Charlie had only checked his iMessages. She hadn't thought to look at encrypted apps like Signal or Telegram. You know, the very apps you might use to send a sensitive message. You really have to look at the timing of all this, because it's a critical part of the story. The so-called discovery of these messages happened only after Candace Owens went public and named the people who received them. To critics, this sequence just doesn't pass the smell test. It looks a whole lot less like a genuine search for the truth and a lot more like a reaction to getting backed into a corner. Okay, so once denying the message existed was no longer an option, the strategy seems to have shifted. It wasn't about denying the message anymore, it was about changing what the message actually meant. And this is where the narrative reportedly started to change. Sources claim the story coming from the Kirk camp morphed. The message wasn't the vague, terrifying, "they are going to murder me" anymore. Suddenly, it was a much more politically charged, "the left is going to kill me." Now, that might seem like a small wording change, but believe me, the implications are huge.
Critics argue this fits a classic damage control playbook perfectly. Step 1. Frame the threat as coming from the left. It's a familiar political enemy, and it rallies your base. Step 2. Obfuscate any other possible motives. You divert everyone's attention away from more complicated theories, say about donors or foreign interests. And Step 3. You control the investigation. A generic threat against the left sounds like political hyperbole, and it's much easier to dismiss than a specific, credible warning.
So this whole sequence of events leaves us with a ton of unanswered questions, some pretty serious doubts, and one single, undisputed fact that's at the core of this whole thing. And that fact is a verifiable falsehood. A public statement was made saying the texts did not exist, period. Later, it was admitted by the very same people that, actually, they do exist.
That part is not in dispute. The central question that remains is why? Why was the initial false statement made in the first place? And that why leads us to a theory detailed in the source material about a possible motive for that denial. This theory suggests Kirk was caught up in a private conflict over foreign policy, specifically involving his relationship with certain donors. According to this view, if his final text didn't blame a political movement, but instead named a specific person or a specific entity, well, that would be an incredibly powerful motive to control that information and change the narrative.
And that leaves us right here with this final haunting question. We know for a fact a warning was sent. We know for a fact that the initial public story about that warning was proven to be false. But we still don't know the most important part. If it wasn't a familiar political foe, who was the they that Charlie Kirk believed was coming to murder him?